Today we are going to get advice from Spirit at the time you view this video, and we're going to do it by just pulling one main card from this tarot deck and one clarifier from this tarot deck. And I think I'm actually feeling called to just split the decks today. So let's do that. Ooh, Seven of Swords, okay. And the clarifier is the World. Wow. Ooh, what a beautiful combination. I love it so much. So let's take a breath on these cards and see what stories and messages want to come through. So this is a really interesting combination because sometimes the Seven of Swords can be thought of as pretty tricky energy to navigate. First of all, we clarified this message by asking for advice from Spirit. So there's advice in the Seven of Swords card. On top of that, it's clarified by the World, which is, the World is a major arcana, and it is in fact the last card of the entire major arcana. And it represents, one thing it can represent is success. And so I think it's a really positive clarifier. And so with that being said, let's talk about the Seven of Swords a little bit. The Seven of Swords can represent tricky relationship dynamics. And because it's coming out as advice from Spirit, one thing that's coming to me is a permission slip to be a little bit deceitful in order to protect yourself, okay? Because sometimes when we are in tricky dynamics, we can't always be 100% out there as our full authentic self, right? And so I think that's what this is saying. Be mindful of who is truly safe and who is not. And as you are navigating these tricky relationship dynamics, give yourself permission to not always have to be 100% honest, 100% authentic, 100% truthful. Sometimes a little bit of deceit is required in order to protect yourself. Now, I say that because, well, that is one meaning the Seven of Swords can represent, but also because it's on my journey, I had to come to realize that, I'm just trying to decide how to put words around this. Honesty, I thought, or honesty is something that I value, right? And I had to come to realize that there were a lot of situations in my life where honesty was weaponized against me as a way to keep me in tricky relationship dynamics. And so I had to give myself permission to see honesty in a different way and to realize that sometimes in order to be honest about, or in order to be honest with myself, I might have to be a little deceitful towards others. Okay? Now, when I say a little deceitful, the way that I mean it is in a way that doesn't hurt you. Do you know what I mean? Because deceit, is as deceit gets bigger, it's just harder to carry for yourself, right? And so I think it's not to be just a little bit deceitful so that you can feel like a better person. It's just almost, I've never said this before, but honestly, it's almost using deceit skillfully. Do you know what I mean? And I laugh because I've never said that before because I was too much of a nice, good girl people pleaser to even think about using deceit tactfully or skillfully. But I think when we are navigating tricky relationship dynamics, it is so important that we give ourselves permission slip to use it in order to keep ourselves safe to the degree where it's not burdening us, but liberating us. And so, let me give you an example. You might have people in your life that have a hard time understanding some of your choices, right? But you feel good about them. So instead of being let's say you have an open Saturday, right? And you have a whole creative day planned. But these people ask you to hang out, right? But they wouldn't understand that you have this whole creative day planned. And so you might use deceit a little tactfully and say you have something scheduled, right? So it's not hurting anybody, right? It's more like the deceit is bridging the gap of what they don't understand that you're doing in order to still protect that creative day. Does that make sense? So it's deceit for a beautiful purpose. And I get the sense then that this world card is telling you a couple things. One is that you're going to more and more successfully manage these relationship dynamics to a point where either you've transformed them or you are less and less around the people who are doubling down on these dynamics. On top of that, the world being, since it's the last card in the major arcana, to me, it always can represent like integration to a certain extent. Like you've been through this entire journey and now you are like integrating the different pieces. And so I think there is something here about this advice from Spirit that actually is going to help you integrate what you need to integrate in order to complete some sort of healing chapter in your life. Does that resonate? And it's surprising, isn't it? Like, like look at these cute little flowers. Like you would think like this would be like a really lighthearted reading where like Spirit's like, hey, go into nature and journal about your dreams or something. Or you know what I mean? Daydream about your most ideal day. As I say that, that's not really lighthearted. That's actually that's a really beautiful thing to do that can lead to immense positive change. And it's just so interesting that what comes out is like such an interesting message about this permission slip to use deceit tactfully. And you can, as you do that, you have this opportunity to integrate more of the healing work that you've already been doing and maybe even close some sort of chapter in your life to move on to another, which is not a lighthearted message at all. And it feels somewhat joyful to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I guess like, I don't mean to undermine any tricky relationship dynamics that you're currently in, but I also feel a lot of joy in this permission slip to deceive. Well, and something else is coming to me around the Seven of Swords card, and this is just probably not how the Seven of Swords is typically thought of, but just because it's because of a conversation I personally had with somebody else, I can think of it in this way now. And that is doing things for your own reasons that may not be the standard reason of why you're doing it. Or let me see if I can say that better. That was really confusing. Like, let's say, I don't know how to give a good example without, the only one that's coming to me is this particular conversation I had with somebody else, and I don't really want to share that publicly. So I guess it's just like doing things for your own reasons. And maybe you show up to something. So I guess another way to put it is sometimes you can use deceit to like not have to do something and bridge that gap of that people don't understand who you are and what your life is. But sometimes you can use it as like you do choose to do something. And people might think you're doing it for this reason, but you can actually, in your own mind, understand why you are doing it and show up for those reasons. So it's kind of like a way to own the energy. If you're like doing an action that maybe seems almost regressive to a certain extent, maybe like you used to do it and you've moved beyond it, or eventually you won't always do it. But you're in a position and it feels right to take this particular action, to show up at this particular event, and to yourself, you understand why you're doing it, and it's not for the purposes that most people think. It's for your own purposes, and you really own that. And so you like seven of swords it as a verb. So it's just like it's an interesting message. It's not necessarily an easy message, but I am finding a little sense actually a lot of joy and lightheartedness in it. And I think there's like so much power in it as well with the world showing up here. So So I hope that's helpful. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for letting me read for you. I wish you all the best as you give yourself permission to do things for your own purposes and to also be deceitful in a way that protects yourself and doesn't burden you.